Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Open to Life podcast. I wanted to make a solo episode today. Right now, at the moment, my son's been napping for like an hour, and in recent times, he seems to have been taking naps for about 2, maybe 3 hours if I'm lucky. So I thought I would maybe go ahead and use this time. Hopefully, this is a wise decision to just make a solo episode. I feel like I haven't just chatted, me and the girlies, me and the viewers, in a while. So, what have I been up to? I feel like I haven't given a life update in a hot second. So, my son this month, October 2025, is going to be 17 months old. Crazy, which means next month means he'd be a year and a half. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And he's a total toddler now. He's a little boy. Like, he is a little boy. He's so smart. He's been learning American Sign Language. I try to also sprinkle in Spanish when I talk to him. And then I beg my husband to please speak Korean to him too. But, anyways, he is so smart with like picking up the sign language. The other day, he gave me a bowl of udon noodles and then he did the sign for eat. Like, he literally handed me the bowl and then signed to me eat. Crazy. So smart. That's how that's going. My husband just celebrated his birthday a couple weeks ago. Love you, Jerry. And my husband has turned 20 something. Ever since we met in college, always publicly online, I've said he turned 20 something, and I'm going to keep saying, yeah, he's 20 something. So you'll never hear from me how old he is. And what else is happening? Well, as you know, I'm the executive director of Pro Life San Francisco. Later this month, October 18th, we're having our second ever support raising dinner. That's going to be exciting. Last year was really hard and it was just a scrappy crew doing the best with the scraps. And hopefully this year we have a little bit more than scraps and we're going to have a little bit more of a crew. We're going to have actual, like, proper volunteers and roles. We've been having dinner planning committee meetings. So hopefully this year's dinner is going to go much more swimmingly, higher quality than the first time around. Recently, if you keep up with me on social media, you saw that I have been out of the country. I was in Africa, in Ethiopia and Liberia through Pro Life Global, teaching practicums there. And I brought my son with me. I had a hectic time applying for the visas for Liberia. Ethiopia, no problem. It was just this online e-visa that went swimmingly. But the Liberian visa, oh my gosh, what a headache. And I feel like I always have to relearn this lesson of, if you go to a country that requires a visa, as soon as you book that ticket, go apply for the visa. Don't wait. Don't be like me. Don't have the undue stress. Oh my goodness. Anyways, so that's what I was doing in Africa. And then most recently, I was in Europe with my friends from the Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising. I was in UK, in London, for the UK March for Life. You know, every nation's national march is so different from the US's. I'll just say that in the UK, and arguably for much of Europe, people are afraid to use their freedom of speech. The freedom of speech is not so free there. They are afraid to say things like abortion is murder. This type of you know, messaging that calls a spade would not be allowed there. And people are scared, and it's really sad as a pro-lifer who I would consider myself to be alternative. I would consider myself someone who thinks civil disobedience, nonviolent direct action, is a logical conclusion of the pro-life position and is what is necessary to actually move the needle and change laws, change culture. It's really sad that just some people don't even want to utter the words abortion is murder online. So hopefully we had an impact there. And then we went on to Vienna, Austria, working with our friends from Pro Life Europe. They had never done sidewalk advocacy before. So we did that 2 days in a row on a non-killing day, and then on the killing day we saw some familiar faces and some people who we didn't see go back. So there's hope that maybe some people changed their minds to save the life of the baby, and the local pro-lifers were inspired to then want to keep this in their tool belts, sidewalk counseling. And yeah, it was just kind of baffling to me, like, you mean to tell me you don't have buffer zone laws here and you haven't been doing sidewalk counseling? Hey? And then the last country I went to was Malta, which is one of the micro countries. It's an island country. You would think Malta is like the last pro-life standout of Europe, but sadly, similar to my home state, Texas, chemical abortions are being trafficked into the country. So pill abortions, drug abortions are what's happening there. There's an underground network, and we did a demonstration outside the parliament trying to speak up about the chemical abortion drugs that are rampant in the country of Malta. So that's a little bit of what I was doing abroad. In Europe, I did not bring my son. I was like, love you, JT, but mama needs a break. And my husband worked it out with taking my son to work or working from home. So thank you, Jerry, for making that possible for me. Fun stuff, creative projects, higher education I've been doing. If you don't know, I have been learning the FEM method of fertility awareness. FEM stands for fertility, education, and medical management. So I, right now, have been doing the training to become a teacher of the FEM method of natural family planning. So hopefully I will become certified and I will be able to teach couples officially this charting method of natural family planning. You know, so many people don't know that there are specific methods to natural family planning. Like, people will be like, oh yeah, I like do fertility awareness. And then the next question I ask naturally is like, oh, how cool. Like, what method do you do? And then they're like, I just like look out for my mucus. I just like look out for my discharge. Like, very vague. And I'm like, okay, so you don't know a method. You just, I don't know, learn stuff from blogs and Instagram, but you didn't formally learn how to chart. And you didn't learn any rules on what days are fertile or infertile and when to time sex based off of your intentions. And I mean, not that this is necessary. You don't need to know if you don't want to, but that's not fertility awareness and natural family planning. Just you being aware of your body. It's a good start. Good for you. But you need to pick a method. You need to learn the protocol, and you need to do that with an instructor, ideally. So yeah, I've been learning the FEM method to be a teacher. And yeah, hopefully I'll be certified sometime in 2026. Also, in 2026, I will be beginning my Fiat hormone coaching certification. The past few weeks, I've been doing my Fiat hormone education courses, but I will become certified in 2026 to be a hormone coach. A hormone coach would really like fill in the gap. An NFP of fertility awareness educator is just teaching you the protocol on here's how to chart. Here is what your body's doing. Here's when you would want to time sex based off of your intentions. Just like, kind of like laying out the rules for you, being accountable to you in that way. And yeah, making sure that you understand the protocol. Now, a hormone coach, though, is making sure you are healthy, is going the next step to be like, sounds like maybe you're experiencing low progesterone. Maybe let's try some lifestyle changes. Maybe let's try some essential oils. Maybe let's try you implementing whole foods and trying to get at least 7 hours of good sleep a night. La, 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 la. So that's something coming up. I also began a womb practitioner training And this is more focused on traditional Chinese medicine. Now, I know if you are a traditional Catholic, maybe you have shut me out, and now you're thinking Melanie is this crazy, far off, whatever the end of that sentence is for you. I don't know. But yeah, I'm learning all about qi, yin, and yang, and the different organs in the body, and how it all plays into our womb and our hormones. So I'm really thankful to be getting all this training that is both very Western with the fertility awareness, teacher education, hormone coaching education, and then going to be very Eastern too, that I can help with analyzing someone's health and be like, sounds like maybe you have a liver qi deficiency. I'll also learn how to analyze people's tongues. I'm going to learn about the Dutch test too. So it's going to be very holistic in the practice and the offerings I hope to provide to people, services I hope to give. And I think that's definitely going to set me apart, that it's not just going to be one or the other, but I will be trained in helping you to chart, knowing when to time sex to avoid or achieve pregnancy, helping you to just be healthy with coaching you, and then being able, I think, more so to get to like root causes, addressing what are the real underlying conditions that are causing you to have short cycles, not being able to achieve pregnancy, et cetera, et cetera. And then most recently, last night, I had my first class for my month-long doula training. Yes, I'm learning how to be a doula, y'all. And this is something that's been in the back of my mind for years. Many years ago, I had a girlfriend say to me that I would make a good doula. And I never forgot that. And there were a few times I looked in different programs, but I never really pursued it fully. But definitely after having my son, not getting the birth I wanted, that really brought this back to the forefront of my mind. And my hope, my idea is that I can be a very holistic person to be able to teach you when to time sex to avoid or achieve pregnancy, helping you to be healthy so that you can stay pregnant, that you can feel healthy just overall. And then, if you allow me, I can walk with you throughout your prenatal care and be there to serve you at the birth. So I'm going to be able to offer all that and do it from this pro-life Catholic lens. I mean, who else is doing this? Maybe there's other people out there, but yeah, I think this is going to be something that really sets me apart. And then I hope too it'll help me to grow just as a professional in my pro-life work, that people would be like, "Wow, Melanie, the pro-life NFP educator, hormone coach, Eastern medicine womb practitioner, and birth worker. Wow. Oh my gosh." I mean, it's not that I'm doing all this stuff so that people will praise me, but hopefully people will be like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool, Melanie. Please come speak at our event. And it's so cool that you have all this background." Now, the first class for this doula training program was yesterday, and it's a month-long program. So by the end of October, I will be done. Doesn't mean I'll be certified as a doula, but I will get a certificate of completion of having attended all the live programs. I have to also do different readings, watch different films, and attend 6 births. So maybe the Lord will provide those births, or maybe not. I don't know. I was the only non-white person at this doula training yesterday. And this month is Hispano Heritage Month, from September 15th to October 15th, if I'm getting that right. And I just never remember how much of a minority I am until I'm in spaces like that. Because growing up in San Antonio, Texas, us Latinos, Chicanos, Mexicanos are the majority there. I was in the majority. I never felt like a minority back in my home city of San Antonio. I never did. I always saw people that looked like me, sounded like me, dressed like me, ate like me. had similar lived experiences, cultural backgrounds like me. That was the norm. It wasn't until I started doing pro-life work in the national scene, being in national conferences and gatherings like in DC, when I first had that culture shock of like, oh my gosh, I really am a minority in the US. I just never knew. And I imagine I can't be the only person who's had this like experience growing up. Yeah. I never realized how much of a minority I am. And it always, like, in that setting, like last night, it just like hit me again. And I gotta say, it felt kind of weird. I felt really weird. Like, oh my gosh, everyone else is like much lighter complexion, blonde hair, colored eyes. And I'm the only one that's, I know I have some type of English accent. I know when I'm in Texas or I'm saying things in a certain way, I'll have more Texas twang come out. And then I know that probably the way I speak most of the time has some Chicano dialect to it. I watched this one video once of this creator explaining that yes, Chicanoism, people like me, we have a certain type of English that we speak. And maybe to some people, it comes off as less intelligent. My fear is that people hear me and that I automatically sound like I'm trying to be a comedian. Maybe that's tied to famous Chicanos like George Lopez and Gabriel Iglesias talking like me, and people know them for being funny, right? This is me kind of thinking out loud, coming to this revelation myself. But yeah, that's definitely one of my fears is as I talk, people are gonna think that I'm just automatically making a joke. One of my fears being in that room was people thinking I'm less intelligent. When I first arrived, I talked to this one classmate and she asked me right away if I lived in the Mission District. And the Mission District, if you don't know, in San Francisco, technically is called like the American Indian Heritage District. It's where it's the most condensed, I would say, part of the city with the most Latinos, Chicanos, Mexicanos, indigenous people, Spanish speakers. And I just said, oh no, I live somewhere else, a different part of the city. It wasn't until last night or this morning I thought, maybe she asked if I lived there in that district because she saw me and just assumed, like, oh yeah, like, you live in this Mission District? This is a white person I'm talking about. Remember, I was the only non-white person in that class. Later on, I reflected, like, she may have asked that just kind of assuming, thinking, like, you do you live in this neighborhood too? I get it. I guess that's a natural question to ask, and I guess I shouldn't be bothered by that. But it was only later after the fact that I thought maybe that's why she asked that question. It was funny last night when I got home and I was talking to Jerry, my husband, and I was like, Jerry, and I held his hand, Jerry, you'll never guess what I have to tell you. And I guess he just knew based off of the way how I was speaking and my gestures. And he was like, let me guess, you were the only non-white person in that class? And I was so shocked. How would you have possibly known that? And he was like, because I know you. I know that that kind of stuff shocks you. I know that you are always shocked when you are the minority. And he's right. I am. I was. And I think every class hereafter, I will continue to be shocked. Also because San Francisco is just such a diverse city. I just would think that I would not be the only non-white person in that class. I mean, statistically. But I think, too, it's not a cheap class. I'm only doing it because I got a scholarship. And on the topic of Hispano Heritage Month, I, through 23andMe, learned that my indigenous heritage is primarily Otomi. And I've been like learning about Otomi, and one of them primarily is this Instagram page of this girl who shares snippets of her grandmother speaking the Otomi language. I think it's called Yanyu. And I was really inspired to want to choose an indigenous name for myself to kind of reclaim this part of me, this heritage, this like remembering of these roots. And the name I chose for myself is Ra Beduzana, which can be kind of loosely translated to the flower soul. And I like that. So I don't know in what spaces I will introduce myself as Ra Beduzana, but that's my indigenous chosen name. Now, I want to transition to talk about a difficult topic, a recent event. It's not so recent now, but the death of Charlie Kirk. It was a tragedy. I came across the violent shooting footage, and it's just so shocking. It's just something that you would think you would only see in a movie. I don't know if even that, but just something of that level of violence. Like, you don't think you would ever come across that and it be a real person. It's something animated or fabricated in a movie and some video game. And it's really sad too that he was a father, a husband, and now there's a widow and two kids without their dad. It's really sad. It's really crazy, this age that we live in with the internet. And it's almost like everyone feels like they have a platform. And maybe everyone does with the internet. And I think with that, when a big event like an assassination happens, people feel this sense of urgency of we have to take to the screens, to the keyboards, and we have to do it immediately, if not sooner. And I just think it's like this false sense of urgency that, number one, just because you have a platform of any level doesn't mean you have to comment on everything. And if you do choose to, it doesn't mean you have to comment right away. I want to have the benefit of the doubt and believe the best in people. It is kind of hard for me to think everyone posting right away are posting from a place of sincerity. Now don't hear what I'm not saying. Maybe people really are being sincere in posting right away when a big event like that happens. But a part of me wonders how much of this truly from this place of sincerity versus how much of this is jumping on the bandwagon for clout, for clicks, for the trending words, and to get people funneled to your page. I hope I'm making sense. And for me, as someone who values honesty, transparency, it comes off to me as inauthentic. Now, everyone grieves in their own ways, but I think to immediately post, has that been how people normally grieve a death? Now, as a pro-life person, an activist, maybe some people would consider me a pro-life leader. I think of Charlie Kirk as a conservative leader, a conservative thought leader, a conservative free speech activist, did a lot in those realms. And to me, for him and people like him, pro-life was one of many issues underneath the umbrella. It was one of many. So for me, I would not have considered Charlie to be a pro-life leader, as in that was his bread and butter, awake, live, go to sleep, thinking pro-life, 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 pro-life. It was one of many things. And I think if we are to truly call Charlie Kirk a pro-life leader, then we would have to widen our definition of what a pro-life leader is and include many people in that definition. I think he was a conservative leader. I think he was pro-life, had pro-life values, and advocated for those pro-life values. But that was not his everyday bread and butter, his mission to abolish abortion. I hope that makes sense. And again, don't hear what I'm not saying. Now, personally, I never followed Charlie Kirk. I never watched his content. I think I may have watched when he was on Jubilee, may have watched some trending, circulating videos around his Jubilee appearance. But other than that, I never followed the guy. So I guess his death for me wasn't as heavy and close and personal as for many other people who are following conservative leaders like him. If an assassination happened to pro-life leaders who are leading pro-life organizations making efforts towards the end goal of abolishing abortion, and that is their everyday wake up, live, go to sleep fighting abortion, it probably would have hit me. It would probably would have hit home for me. I would have been heavily grieving, similar to how many people were also grieving online. It's a tragedy what happened. And something I learned recently is, we got to give people grace that we are speaking in drafts, right? As I'm talking to you in real time, I am not speaking in the final revised version of these thoughts. These are my honest thoughts in real time. And dare I say, I'm speaking in drafts. These aren't worded perfectly. And so I hope you can give me grace, not saying things the perfect way that maybe you would have said it. But I just really wanted to share my thoughts after taking several weeks to just process and think. I didn't want to jump to the internet. The same day as the assassination, there was another school shooting that had happened. And then the next day was 9/11. And not to water down the tragedy that was his killing, but there's other things happening in the world. For me, being a Texan, I've always been very pro-gun. It was a topic I never really thought much about. And I gotta say, after witnessing the video that maybe you saw too of the assassination, and just the evil timing of the question that was asked right before the trigger of what were Charlie's thoughts about mass shootings and gun violence. And then what happened. Gosh, it really makes me think like maybe guns aren't this wonderful answer that maybe I thought they once were. When Charlie was killed, I was still in Vienna, Austria. And if you don't know, in much of Europe, or at least the Europeans I've interacted with, they are very anti-gun. They think it is almost barbaric and unnecessary. And I remember my European friend saying to me, like, Melanie, we don't have this here. Talking about the news, like she was like, this doesn't happen here. We don't have this here. Implying like our gun laws, whatever the state of the laws are, we don't have this here. These kind of killings. And then my husband tells me, like, yeah, they don't have that, but they have mass stabbings. And I get it. A bad person is going to find a way to do a bad thing. Someone whose mental health is not well, they will find a way to do bad things. I recognize too, I remember hearing the argument of like, well, slaves didn't have guns. And we need guns to protect ourselves from an oppressive regime, an oppressive government. So I hear these things, right? But then we all saw the shooting, and come on, you can't tell me that that was very evilly ironic, the timing of the question and the shooting. Evil. And I feel like if the killer's goal was to get people to start thinking about gun reform, I feel like it worked for me. But then I'm thinking of the other side of the spectrum of like, well, if and when the government is completely taking over, how do I protect myself and my family? So I don't know what the answer is. I think as of right now, the answer that hopefully everyone can agree to is we have a mental health crisis. And really, I think it all goes back to the family dynamics, the ways how people are parenting, how mom and dad are reflecting love in their own marriage to their children, how mom and dad are regulating their own nervous systems and then teaching their children to regulate their nervous systems too. And then, if mom or dad is not fully present in the house, and that leads to so many things. I think a huge part of the mental health crisis goes back to the family. And hopefully that's not a radical statement. This is just me thinking logically, like, okay, boy that kills person he didn't like, who was a dad and a husband. Boy had to have had mental health problems, mental health episodes. Okay, follow. How did that happen? Where was the breakdown with the mental health? Did he have a good upbringing? What was his upbringing like? I'm sure there's a lot of gaps, even from upbringing, leaving the house to making the decision to kill someone. Yeah, that's where my mind goes. We need strong families. We need healthy marriages. We need conscious parenting that is regulating their own nervous systems, helping their children regulate their nervous systems, building trust, building a safe environment. I'm never going to hit my children. I'm saying it right now. You can hold me accountable to that. I never want to hit my children as a form of discipline. Never. Mm-mm. That's a sign I need to regulate my own nervous system. And I really want to be a place of safety for my children. I want my children to know that they can always come talk to me. And in fact, whatever it is, thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming to me. That's the way how I'm going to parent. And hopefully that will create healthy children, wise, who will be kind to others. I've had these thoughts in my head, and I feel like there was a time on social media that I really was kind of being this influencer and calling a spade, just being more verbal. And I think too, before my prefrontal cortex was fully developed, I was very more blunt in the way how I would talk to people. And as I've gotten older, I feel like I've definitely reeled that back. And now I'm at the point where I feel like the pendulum has swung too far to the other side, that now I'm so careful about what I say that I don't say anything at all. So I'm trying to find what is the healthy middle. And right now I felt like the healthy middle was not taking to the keyboard like the rest of the world, not feeling like I needed to say something right away. And you didn't have to either. If you didn't, that is okay. Social media is this very new thing that did not exist for however many years, and it is okay to not take to the screens when major life events happen. It's okay. You don't have to feel the need to comment on every single event. You just don't. But yes, again, to emphasize, it's a tragedy what happened. A tragedy. And everyone hopefully should be able to agree to that. Should have never happened. And like I said, I never watched his content. I didn't. I've been turned off by Turning Point USA for many years. I remember many years ago, on the topic of Hispano Heritage Month, many years ago, I think it was Isabella Brown. She made some video looking at these books, these textbooks from this public library. Like, oh my gosh, look at what they are teaching our children. And one textbook was just like, Indigenous history. Yay, I'm brown and I'm beautiful. Just some of the books that she was ranting about, I did not understand what the problem was. And a friend told me once that for some conservative peoples, I'm not saying all, don't hear what I'm not saying, but that for some white, specifically white conservative peoples, that there is this fear of white erasure, white people being erased, whether they are conscious of it or not. Just yesterday, I took these Harvard implicit bias tests. Definitely look into that. Maybe you'll be surprised. It's free and it's like 7 minutes each. It's kind of like this game when you're doing the quiz online. But yeah, I think you just need to Google like Harvard implicit assessment test, IAT. After Charlie died, there was this tweet of his that was circulating on the internet, and it was this picture of white women in the abortion business and women of color, people that were Muslim, various backgrounds, in a maternity ward, very visibly pregnant. And his caption was something like, "No, this is where America's going." That I don't understand. All the clips I've seen of Charlie, very nice guy, very kind. He was not all the bad things that people made him out to be. In fact, I saw some clips of him just this morning where he was very friendly towards LGBT peoples. The point being is that I didn't understand. Now, there's maybe a lot of context I don't know, but that to me, offensive. I am a Chicana woman with indigenous descent. I'm also Jewish. I have Jewish background. Yes, on my mother's side and my father's side, for your information. My husband is Korean. My son looks very Asian. Seeing an image like that, it's just like, what is the problem with minority women's being in a maternity ward and white women in the abortion business? Is the problem that it's not the other way around? That it should be flipped? I don't understand. I probably should do some more Googling about that tweet, but this is how old now? And I guess I would just be doing this research for myself to understand what he really meant by that. Like I said, I was never a fan just because I didn't follow him. I didn't follow Turning Point. I stopped following Turning Point after I was turned off by that blonde girl being like, this book about brown kids being beautiful and I love my indigenous roots. Like, why can't books like that exist? Huh? How's that indoctrinate? What? Huh? I mean, I definitely would give my son a book that's like, I have indigenous roots and this is something to be proud of. What's wrong with that? What is inherently wrong with that? And then what is inherently wrong with women of color, diverse women being in a maternity ward in that comic graphic? If you know something I don't of why that was a problem, tell me. I mean, it would have been one thing if it was like white women in the abortion business and white women in the maternity ward, and then the caption was, look at where America's going. That would have like, okay, the problem is just that abortion is an option. The problem is just that women are killing their babies. Okay. I get the tweet. I get it. But that's not what the tweet was. The image was all a cartoon image, but white women in the abortion business waiting room and women of color, diverse women in the maternity ward, very visibly pregnant. And caption was something like, what's wrong with America? Where's America going? Huh? Keep in mind, I'm a mom. I've been pregnant. That very well could have been me portrayed in that cartoon if one of those girls was Latina, Chicana, indigenous descent. That very well could have been me, pregnant with a mixed Asian child. Like, huh? And you know, another thing, I saw a lot floating around on the internet that maybe Charlie was converting to Catholicism in his last few days. And I've seen mixed things about it. I mean, I heard this one Catholic speaker say that Charlie was going to adoration and like a daily rosary. I don't know. I mean, then we all saw that one clip of him being like, I could never join a church that believes anyone other than Jesus was sinless. But who knows? That was like a little over a month before he was killed. Hey, maybe a lot could have happened in a month. I'm hopeful. And then there was that one article that he was wearing a St. Michael medal that got blood on it. So I don't know. My point is, like, it seems like it's inconclusive on was he converting his last few days, last few weeks. I really hope so. I wonder about the depth of his wife's, Erica's, faith, of how much of a practicing devout Catholic is she really. I don't know. That's between her and God. In the end, I really hope Turning Point uses their platform for good. And here would be another good analogy. Charlie Kirk is to Turning Point as a big pro-life national speaker is to pro-life movement, right? And if we are to view Charlie Kirk as a pro-life leader, pro-life activist, then we are to view Turning Point as a pro-life organization with the goal of ending abortion, helping moms. No, right? We would never be like, yeah, Turning Point, pro-life org. Maybe pro-life is one of many values, but pro-life is not the thing. I hope I'm making sense. And I don't think I'm crazy. I realized the other day that it's such a pain point or a trigger point for me when I feel like I'm crazy. I feel like, to the truest sense of the term, of being gaslit. And from learning the true definition, being gaslit is when someone makes you think that the reality you know to be true is false. And really, it's an abusive thing that's ongoing. It's not just one event. But I reflected growing up that that was something I definitely experienced a lot. I would be told things like, everyone sees it but you, Melanie. Everyone sees it but you. And I'd be like, what does everyone see? Well, just ask, and they'll tell you. They'll tell you how you're acting. They'll tell you your behavior. Never could get an answer on what it was that everyone saw but me. But my point is that I think the objective truth is that Charlie Kirk was a pro-life person, but was a conservative leader who happened to be pro-life. And that fell under the umbrella of other things he cared about and talked about and advocated for. And I don't think I'm crazy. I think that is objective reality, the same way how the organization he founded is not in and of itself a pro-life organization. The organization may have a pro-life value. They may be in favor of babies in the womb, but they do not operate with the intention of saving babies, helping moms, ending an abortion. And I don't think I'm crazy. I don't think I'm crazy. And I don't think that's speaking ill of the guy either. I think that is the objective truth. I didn't think he was a pro-life leader. Seriously, if he was, we would have to expand our definition of what a pro-life leader is. So, call me crazy, but you're allowed to have your wrong opinion. And maybe my opinion is aligned with objective reality. So, how do I end this on a good note, on a happy note? Thankful for the waves that Charlie made for freedom of speech and freedom of thought, freedom of conversation to happen at college campuses. That's just like so foreign in other parts of the world, as I've seen. I mean, primarily in Europe. The world was definitely impacted by the shooting. Time goes on, as the news cycles continue, it becomes more and more part of the thing of the past, and it'll probably be something that we reflect on every September 10th. So pray for Charlie's soul, pray for the healing of his wife, the consolation of his wife, those closest to them, and pray for the little girls, their children, that they will have wonderful men in their life to hopefully step in that father role. So that's all I have. Don't want to keep rambling on and on. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you're having a good Hispano Heritage Month, and see y'all in the next episode. Bye.